The post-Cold War order, once thought to be the foundation of a stable and unified Europe, is now being tested in ways few could have predicted. Today, it faces its most significant and complex challenge yet, as the very fabric of European unity begins to unravel under new pressures. In a move that has sent shockwaves through diplomatic circles, 2 EU member states have formally expressed interest in joining BRICS+, the powerful economic bloc led by emerging economies. This unprecedented step is shaking the foundations of European solidarity and raising urgent questions about the future of the continent. The announcement, confirmed on New Year's Day 2026, marks a turning point in global alignments. It signals not just a change in alliances, but a profound rethinking of the relationships that have defined Europe for decades. The countries involved, believed to be from Central and Southern Europe, are openly challenging the dominance of the Franco-German axis. They are also questioning the EU's long-standing alignment with US interests, reflecting growing frustration with policies seen as out of touch with their own national priorities. By reaching out to BRICS, these nations are making a calculated bid for greater strategic autonomy. Their message is clear. The status quo is no longer acceptable, and new partnerships are being sought to secure their future. This is far more than a symbolic gesture. It is a bold declaration that alternative geopolitical futures are not only possible, but are now being actively pursued by EU members themselves. The move complicates the West's narrative of a world neatly divided between democracies and autocracies. Instead, it reveals a new reality, one where economic interests, energy security, and strategic calculations increasingly outweigh old ideological divides. The European Union now faces a stark and urgent choice: either reform to accommodate the growing diversity of interests within its ranks, or risk a slow but steady fracturing, as more nations begin to look eastward for new opportunities and alliances, potentially reshaping the global order for years to come. The motivations behind this move are rooted in deep disillusionment with the EU's trajectory. Over the years, many citizens and leaders have grown increasingly frustrated with what they perceive as a distant and unresponsive bureaucracy in Brussels. The original vision of unity and shared prosperity has, for some, given way to a sense of lost control and eroded national identity. For these nations, the EU's top-down approach has eroded national sovereignty and left smaller states feeling marginalized. Decisions that once rested with local governments are now often dictated by EU institutions, making it difficult for individual countries to address their unique challenges and priorities. The push for ever closer union is now seen as a threat, not a promise. What was once a hopeful project for peace and cooperation is increasingly viewed as a force for centralization, stifling the voices of smaller member states and undermining their autonomy. Turning to BRICS is a way to reclaim strategic flexibility and assert the right to pursue independent foreign policy. By engaging with emerging global powers, these countries hope to diversify their alliances and reduce their dependence on the EU's economic and political structures. The dominance of the Franco-German engine has created a two-speed Europe, leaving others feeling like junior partners. While Western European capitals thrive, many in the East and South feel left behind, their concerns overshadowed by the priorities of the EU's most powerful members. By exploring BRICS membership, these governments tap into rising nationalist sentiment and promise a more assertive national identity. Leaders are responding to public calls for greater self-determination, using the prospect of new alliances to rally support and inspire hope for a future where their voices matter more. It's a message to voters. We're not just following Brussels, we're charting our own course. This narrative of independence and renewal resonates strongly, especially among those who feel their country's interests have been sidelined for too long. This act of defiance resonates with those skeptical of distant, supranational bureaucracies. For many, it represents a chance to reclaim agency, restore pride, and shape a future that reflects their own values and aspirations, rather than those imposed from afar. Economic realism is the true driver behind this pivot. These EU nations seek diversification and resilience after years of stagnation and over-reliance on the single market. BRICS Plus offers access to vast, dynamic markets and new investment opportunities, especially through the New Development Bank. This isn't about abandoning the EU, but about hedging bets and building a more robust economic future. Preferential access to BRICS markets could mean new jobs, revenue, and reduced dependence on a slow-growing Europe. The NDB provides alternative financing for infrastructure and digital transformation, often with fewer strings attached. By signaling interest in BRICS, these nations gain leverage in EU negotiations, forcing Brussels to take their grievances seriously. They're playing both sides to maximize benefits for their citizens. Brussels has responded with alarm, emphasizing unity while scrambling behind the scenes. Emergency meetings and diplomatic pressure are underway to keep the two nations in the fold. Washington's public response is sharper, warning of security risks and intensifying lobbying efforts. Media coverage focuses on the threat to Western unity and the risks of alienating traditional allies. Critics argue the economic benefits of BRICS are overstated, while the political costs could be immense. Yet some analysts see this as a predictable response to Western overreach and EU inflexibility. Dissenting voices call for a reassessment of Western strategy and more flexibility within the EU. The actions of these two nations have forced an uncomfortable debate into the open. BRICS nations have welcomed the EU overtures with enthusiasm and a sense of vindication. China frames BRICS as an open, inclusive platform, contrasting with the exclusivity of Western clubs. Russia sees this as a propaganda victory, proof that its challenge to the US-led order is working. India, Brazil, and South Africa highlight the economic potential and validation of their multi-aligned strategies. The expanded BRICS Plus community, including new members from the Middle East, signals approval. The inclusion of EU economies would boost BRICS' global prestige and legitimacy. The message is clear, the door is open, and the political will for expansion is strong. For the two EU nations, BRICS offers a compelling alternative if relations with Brussels and Washington sour. Expert opinion is sharply divided on the wisdom of this move. Some analysts argue passionately, highlighting the complexity and far-reaching consequences of such a strategic decision. The debate is not just about economics or politics, but about the very future direction of global alliances and power structures. Western analysts warn that joining BRICS risks trading EU dependency for a China-centric order and exposes internal contradictions within the bloc. They caution that aligning too closely with BRICS could undermine established relationships with the West, potentially leading to new forms of dependency and uncertainty about long-term benefits. They argue BRICS is too divided to offer real benefits, and that the new development bank can't match Western institutions. Critics point to the lack of cohesion among BRICS members, noting that their differing interests and priorities often prevent unified action. The financial resources and global influence of the new development bank, they say, still pale in comparison to the IMF or World Bank. Others see this as a rational hedge by mid-sized powers seeking autonomy in a multipolar world. For these countries, joining BRICS is less about choosing sides and more about expanding their options. It's a way to assert independence and gain leverage in a rapidly changing international landscape. BRICS is viewed as a flexible platform, not an anti-Western bloc, and joining doesn't require breaking with the West. Supporters emphasize that membership can coexist with strong Western ties, allowing countries to benefit from both spheres of influence without being forced into a binary choice. The bloc's economic weight and principle of non-interference are attractive to nations wary of EU overreach. For countries frustrated by what they see as excessive regulation or political pressure from Brussels, BRICS offers an appealing alternative, one that promises respect for sovereignty and a more balanced approach to cooperation. By straddling both camps, these nations can maximize benefits and minimize risks. This dual engagement strategy allows them to access new markets, diversify partnerships, and reduce vulnerability to external shocks or political shifts. This is seen by some as a shrewd adaptation to new global realities. In a world where power is increasingly dispersed and alliances are fluid, the ability to navigate between blocs is not just pragmatic, it may be essential for survival and prosperity in the decades ahead. BRICS membership would recalibrate global trade flows for these EU nations. Preferential access to BRICS markets would shift supply chains and open European markets to BRICS-based companies. Increased competition could benefit consumers but pressure domestic industries. The key challenge: managing the transition and finding new niches in the BRICS ecosystem. The most profound impact may be on global currencies, as BRICS pushes to reduce reliance on the dollar. If EU members settle more trade in non-dollar currencies, it would accelerate de-dollarization and boost BRICS' financial architecture. This could fragment the global currency system, with the dollar, euro, and BRICS currencies competing. For BRICS, it's a step toward economic sovereignty. For the world, it means new complexities and risks. EU entry into BRICS would fundamentally reshape the global chessboard. These nations would become pivotal states, mediating between the EU and BRICS, complicating traditional alliances. This ambiguity could strengthen their position, but frustrate Western strategic planners. Western cohesion would be tested. How can NATO or the EU act decisively if members are aligned with Moscow or Beijing? BRICS' prestige would soar, transforming it into a truly global institution. For the Global South, this signals BRICS as a viable, perhaps preferable, alternative to the Western order. The world would become more complex and unstable, with power diffusing across more actors and alliances. The old pyramid of US dominance is giving way to a tangled web of competing interests. The BRICS overture forces the EU to confront its deepest existential crisis. The EU must choose double down on integration and risk alienation, or reform and allow more flexibility. A multi-tiered Europe could hold the Union together, but would dilute its identity as a single actor. Globally, this marks the arrival of a truly multipolar era, where middle powers have unprecedented agency. Nations can now build portfolios of alliances, prioritizing pragmatism over ideology. The BRICS move exposes the EU's internal contradictions and the appeal of non-Western platforms. While risky, this is a rational response to a world where power is diffusing away from traditional centers. The old maps no longer apply. All nations must navigate a new, unpredictable world.